did you ever wonder what would have happened if all of the Hashira were reborn with their memories? What would they do differently this time around? And most importantly, would they be able to avoid their deaths? Well, as the Hashira are reborn, they would be completely confused at first, not knowing what happened. However, they would soon realize that they are seemingly back in the past with all of their future memories intact. Vowing to themselves to change things this time around and prevent more people from dying, each Hashira would start crafting their new path, awaiting the birth of Tanjiro, which would kick off their ultimate destiny. Now, before explaining what each Hashira's backstory would change this time around, let's first answer the most important question. Would the Hashira try to save Tanjiro's family, knowing that Muzan would attack them? Well, while some like Giyu and Shinobu would discuss a plan to stop Muzan's slaughter of the Kamado family before it happens, others, like Obanai and Sonami, would call it impossible, saying that they just aren't strong enough to defeat Muzan yet. You have to remember that the Hashira still wouldn't have awakened their Demon Slayer marks at this point in the story, which would make fighting Muzan extremely dangerous. They would argue back and forth for a while as that fateful night approaches before finally deciding not to intervene in Muzan's attack. Finally, the night would come. Tanjiro would go into town, and even though he knows he can't stop it, Giyu would position himself nearby as darkness falls. He would overhear the horrific sounds of Muzan attacking the Kamado family, knowing that there's nothing he can do to stop it. Giyu would then spend the entire night near the Kamado family's house as he waits for Tanjiro to return. As soon as Tanjiro takes Nezuko and starts running into town, Giyu would appear in front of them. Confused, Tanjiro would immediately stop in his tracks while Nezuko launches her attack on the Hashira. Giyu would calmly stop her attack and put Nezuko to sleep while telling Tanjiro that everything will be okay in the end. Although Tanjiro wouldn't know what Giyu means, he would sense that Giyu is a good person and would decide to trust him. The Hashira would then help Tanjiro bury his family, offering prayers for their souls to find peace in the afterlife. Afterward, he would accompany the siblings to Urokodaki's house, giving the former Water Hashira his report in person and immediately telling him that there's something special about these two. After that, Giyu would leave again to resume his duties, while Tanjiro starts training with his new teachers, Sabito and Mokomo. Now, before I explain how exactly these two are alive, I want to tell you guys about Fableverse, the sponsor of today's video. Stick around till the end for a chance to win one of 5 $100 gift cards. Fableverse is a free platform on Voice.me where you can chat with your favorite anime characters. You can ask them any questions you want, create your own what-if stories, or even create your own character from scratch. You can just describe the character you want to create, and Fableverse will do it for you. You can then talk with your character, and they'll even send you images you can react to by pressing the C button. There's also a limited time giveaway going on. If you create your own character and send them at least 8 messages, you'll have a chance to win one of 5 $100 gift cards. Click my link in the description now and chat with your favorite anime characters today. You see, when Giyu was reborn, he knew that there were a few things he would need to do even before meeting Tanjiro as a Hashira. He would start training from a much younger age this time, doing everything he could to master water breathing and seeking out Urokodaki a couple of years earlier. Just like before, he would meet Sabito and Mokomo while training under Urokodaki, forming a close friendship with them. However, this time, Giyu would be determined not to let them die during final selection and would be ready to do anything to prevent it. Becoming a master of water breathing much earlier than before, Giyu would wait for Sabito and Mokomo to join final selection and make sure he joins the same year as them. As soon as the test starts, Giyu would rush towards the hand demon and, with one decisive strike, cut the demon's head clean off, saving many slayers in the process. So that's how Sabito and Mokomo would survive. Anyway, back in the present, despite having Sabito and Mokomo to train with, it would still take Tanjiro almost 2 years to master water breathing and cut the boulder. Tanjiro's journey would continue as normal from here, with final selection passing much more easily without the hand demon there. Afterwards, he would return to Urokodaki's for Nezuko, where Giyu, Sabito, and Mokomo would be waiting to congratulate him. They would all share a meal before he heads off on his first assignment, tracking down the swamp demon. Same as before, Tanjiro would easily take out this demon and would make his way to Asakusa, the place where he met Muzan for the first time. There, Tanjiro would witness Muzan turning a random man into a demon. But Tamayo and Yushiro would quickly intervene and help him get out of there. Tamayo would then explain to Tanjiro that she is already working with the Demon Slayer Corps, trying to create a poison that can turn demons back back into humans. More specifically, she would be working with Shinobu, since the insect Hashira would have contacted her much earlier than before. From here, everything would go pretty much the same, with Tanjiro meeting Inosuke and Zenitsu and battling Rui. However, after Tanjiro arrives at the Butterfly Mansion for the first time, there would be some major changes. While in the past timeline, the Hashira were largely in favor of killing Nezuko right then and there, this wouldn't be the case this time, and they would all quickly accept her as one of their own. Of course, this would also mean Sonami wouldn't try to kill her and would actually act nice towards her. Although Tanjiro would be happy about it, he would be a bit confused about how the Hashira accepted them this easily. Anyway, let's now take some time to explain what each Hashira did differently in their lives up to this point. We already know how Giyu managed to save Sabito and Makomo this time, but you would be absolutely surprised to learn what the others accomplished as well. Starting with Muichiro. Knowing that his brother would die to a demon attack, Muichiro sought Kagaya much earlier in his life. Kagaya obviously accepted the two, and they trained hard their entire lives, becoming the dual Mist Hashira of the Demon Slayer Corps. Yeah, you heard that right. Both Yuichiro and Muichiro would be alive in this scenario. Next, using his future memories, Sonami found a way to prevent his mother from becoming a demon, which meant his entire family survived. Because of this, he and Genya had an amazing relationship from the very beginning, fighting demons together as brothers. Moving on, Gyomei sought out Kagaya much earlier with his group of orphans, knowing that they would be safe with the Corps. After they were taken in, Gyomei was still able to train and become one of the strongest Hashira around. However, although he managed to save the kids, Kagaku still left his protection in search of power, so his fate wouldn't change much in the long run. One of the Hashira who had the happiest new life is definitely Mitsuri. You see, in this life, she didn't concern herself with trying to find a husband at all, since she already knew that she and Obanai were meant to be together. So she devoted all that time instead to training hard, mastering the art of love breathing. And yeah, in case you're wondering, she and Obanai would be an official couple in this timeline. As for Obanai himself, his life went mostly the same. The only difference is that he fled from his family much earlier before they could permanently scar him. He was then taken in by Kagaya and joined the Corps, where he met Mitsuri again. And although many Hashira were able to change their stories, like Muichiro saving his brother or Giyu saving his friends, Shinobu wasn't so lucky. You see, Shinobu's attempts to save her sister were fruitless. She began training in insect breathing much earlier in life, and with all her immense knowledge of poisons carried over, she believed for sure that she could help Kane defeat Doma during their first encounter. So, when that night came, she fought beside her sister, both of them giving Doma a fight to remember, but it still wasn't enough. Even though it seemed like the sisters might actually win, suddenly, Doma unleashed a furious attack on Shinobu. Sensing the danger, Kane jumped in to protect her sister, sacrificing her own life to ensure Shinobu survived. Injured from the tough fight, Doma fled, cursing the sisters, as Shinobu, once again, held a dying Kane in her arms. This defeat only reinforced her hatred of Doma and made her even more determined to kill the demon later on. This also what pushed her to seek out Tamayo, giving them more time to work on the anti-Muzan drug and various poisons. Back in the present, Tanjiro and the gang would quickly recover and would be ready for one of the most important battles of their lives, the battle aboard Mujin train. This time, however, all Hashira would know what's at stake, and they would make a plan to ensure that history doesn't repeat itself. Although the others would be nervous, knowing that Rengoku could very well die again, Rengoku himself would be as calm as ever. He would assure the others that even if he dies, they would still be able to defeat Muzan in the end. Soon after, the group would board the Mujin train. They would go through the motions just as before, falling asleep from Enmu's blood demon art, with Tanjiro realizing what he needs to do to overcome the demon. As Tanjiro takes on Enmu head-to-head, the others would protect the train's passengers. Although Rengoku knew exactly where Enmu was hiding this time around, he wouldn't do anything about it. Instead, he would intentionally leave Tanjiro and the others to take care of him once again, so they can develop their skills and abilities. Same as before, Tanjiro would deliver the final blow, killing Enmu, though not before the demon pulls his last-ditch effort and derails the train. The Slayers would immediately get to work, securing all the passengers and making sure they're safe, while Rengoku stays on guard, knowing exactly what comes next. Sure enough, after a few minutes, 𝐿𝐴ZA would launch his attack, going straight for Tanjiro as Rengoku blocks it, starting their fateful clash. Rengoku would be visibly stronger this time, and 𝐿𝐴ZA would be surprised by just how much of a fight the Flame Hashira is able to put up. However, despite Rengoku's best efforts, he would quickly reach his limit, unable to contend with 𝐂𝐫𝐴 and his regeneration. But just as 𝐂𝐫𝐴 would prepare to land the final blow, the Hashira's real plan would spring into action. Rengoku would retreat slightly, making room to use his ultimate flame-breathing technique. And as 𝐂𝐫𝐴 prepares to counter it, he'd unexpectedly be ambushed by Giyu and Tenjin, both of whom had been hiding in the forest nearby. The two Hashira would then coordinate their attack with Rengoku's, all three of them approaching from different angles and slashing right at 𝐂𝐫𝐴's neck. With the sun beginning to rise, 𝐂𝐫𝐴 would attempt to flee, but the pressure from three Hashira combined would be too overwhelming, and he would turn to dust soon after, unable to escape. So yeah, Rengoku would survive in this version of the story. Now, while Rengoku's death was a major motivator for Tanjiro to get stronger in the past timeline, seeing the teamwork and strength of the three Hashira would give him the same drive, and he would want to get stronger just the same. Besides that, in this timeline, Tanjiro would also have Rengoku as a teacher, which would make his growth even faster. After surviving his battle against 𝐂𝐫𝐴, Rengoku would return home briefly, reconciling with his father and giving his brother more hope for the future, tasking him with researching sun breathing for Tanjiro, much like he did in the past life. Soon enough, orders would come for the main group to infiltrate the entertainment district under the leadership of Tenjin Uzui. Tenjin would know that it's his turn to defy the fate next. However, that wouldn't be so easy, considering that no Hashira would be able to assist him on his mission. You see, Hashira are extremely busy, each protecting a certain region from demons, and they can't just abandon those duties whenever they want. Despite this, Tenjin would feel confident that everything would turn out just fine. Soon enough, Tanjiro's group would begin their mission, with Tenjin telling them that he suspects Daki of being the demon they're after. He would obviously know this from his past life and would try to speed up the mission by revealing it to everyone. The boys would then go through the motions just like before, eventually finding the cavern where Daki is hiding all her victims before the battle starts. This time, Tenjin would instruct everyone else to fight against Daki, saying that he'll take care of Gyutaro on his own. As the fight rages on throughout the entertainment district, Tanjiro would manifest his Demon Slayer mark, unlocking a whole new level of power alongside Nezuko, who would turn into her full demon form. This would take Daki completely by surprise, and all of them working together would easily defeat her. At the same time, somewhere nearby, Tenjin would battle fiercely with Gyutaro, trying new strategies he's been preparing for years at this point. Tenjin would be determined not to suffer any major injuries like he did the first time around, and would want to make sure he's able to take part in the final battle at the Infinity Castle. To that end, he would have trained long and hard with the other Hashira for years by this point, and witnessing Tanjiro manifest his mark would finally push him to do the same. As he prepares to deliver one final blow to Gyutaro, Tenjin would suddenly manifest a mark on his face. His mark would appear as musical notes on his cheek, instantly boosting his strength to insane levels. Thanks to his newfound power, he would be able to slice clean through Gyutaro's neck, and best of all, he wouldn't suffer any injuries doing it. So far, both Tenjin and Rengoku have managed to defy their fates and survive, meaning they would both be available to help during the fight against Muzan. However, before we get to that, let's first see what would happen at the Swordsmith Village next. Now, if there's one thing that's going to remain a constant across lifetimes and reincarnations, it's that Haga Nezuka would want to murder Tanjiro for repeatedly breaking his swords. This time is no different, and the Swordsmith would be in full rage mode before Tanjiro can even take a few steps into the village. The first major change during this arc would be that both Yurichiro and Muichiro would be present in the village from the very beginning. As soon as Tanjiro arrives, he would witness the two showing off some incredible teamwork while battling against the Yoroshi Zero doll. Knowing Tanjiro from his past life, Muichiro would immediately be friendly toward him and would even offer to train him for a bit. With this training, Tanjiro would be a bit more prepared for the battle ahead and would even claim the legendary sword after destroying the doll. However, as the sun sets on his 7th day in the village, everything would go to hell, just as before. During the night, Hantengu would attack Tanjiro and Genya, while Muichiro and Yurichiro engage in battle with Gyoko. Considering that there are now 2 of them, the twins would make much quicker work of the upper rank 5 demon, awakening their marks in the process. With Gyoko dead within minutes, they would rush to join the fight with Hantengu. Before they even get there, Mitsuri would already arrive to help Tanjiro and Genya deal with the demon. Mitsuri would soon awaken her mark as well, and together with Tanjiro, they would be able to keep the demon at bay until the twins finally arrive. Realizing that this is a fight he can't win, Hontenku would attempt to escape. As he flees, the Hashira would let Tanjiro chase him down alone, with Moichiro even telling his brother to stand down, saying that this is something Tanjiro must do on his own. As the sun begins to rise, Tanjiro would finally catch up to the demon and cut off his neck using Hinokami Kagura, successfully defeating the upper rank 4. During this time, Nezuko would also come out of her box and gain immunity to sunlight, which would set the stage for the final confrontation against Muzan. Before that, however, Hashira training would begin, with Tenjin and Rengoku there to make sure the core grows even stronger this time around. At this point, all of the Hashira would know about Kagaya's plan to blow himself up, but surprisingly, no one would try to stop him from doing it. They all would understand that Kagaya has already made up his mind, and any attempt to talk him out of it would be futile. So instead, the Hashira would focus on spending as much time as they can with their adoptive father during his final days. Soon, the Hashira would go over their final plan before the Infinity Castle battle, and this is where things get interesting. Instead of just rushing at Muzan without thinking, this time, the Hashira would put themselves in strategic positions around Muzan so they can choose in which part of the castle they would fall. For example, Rengoku and Tenjin would make sure to position themselves very close to Shinobu so that they would all fall next to Doma and fight him together. Meanwhile, Yorichiro would stand right next to his brother, so he would be able to help in their battle against Kokushibo. With everything agreed on, the only thing left would be to wait patiently for Muzan's arrival. The next night, Muzan would appear next to the mansion. Same as before, Kagaya would make the ultimate sacrifice, blowing up the Butterfly Mansion to try and kill the Demon King. This time though, the Hashira would take extra measures, filling the entire area with even more wisteria to weaken him as Tamayo moves in. Since she and Shinobu started working together much earlier than before, Tamayo would make the anti-Muzan drug even more potent this time around, dealing far more damage to Muzan. Even though Muzan would still kill Tamayo during the process, she would die smiling, knowing that the drug was successful. Immediately after, the Hashira would rush in, keeping their positions in mind so that they would fall into the Infinity Castle in their pre-planned groups. As they fall through the castle, the Hashira would set their sights on each of their targets. Shinobu, Rengoku, and Tenjin would take on Doma, with Shinobu guiding the two to his palace. The others would begin moving toward their opponents, with Gyome's group tracking Kokushibo, while Obanai and Mitsuri search for Nakime in order to destroy the Infinity Castle. All the while, Muzan would go into his recovery state at the center of the chaos. It wouldn't take long for Shinobu to track her prey, and a fierce battle would instantly break out with 3 Hashira engaging Doma together. Shinobu's extended period of working with Tamayo would pay off in this lifetime. As Rengoku keeps the upper 2 busy with his intense flame attacks, Shinobu would execute a move that stabs him multiple times, each stab injecting more and more concentrated poison that she and Tamayo perfected over the years. Despite Doma's strength, for a short time, he would be completely immobilized by this new poison, and that's all the Hashira would need. Instantly, Rengoku and Tenjin would leap toward Doma with their strongest attacks and cut his head clean off. To prevent the demon from healing, Shinobu would step forward, looking her sister's killer in the eye, before injecting even more poison straight through his head, killing him for good. With their battle won, they would head off toward another part of the castle, determined to help the others. Around the same time, Gyome's group would encounter Kokushibo a bit earlier, since they would already know their way through the castle. Sensing the combined strength of the Hashira, Kokushibo wouldn't hold back one bit and would instantly attack the Slayers with everything he has. Each Hashira present would quickly manifest their mark, with Yorichiro's appearing as the exact mirror of his twin brothers. However, despite the Hashira's immense power, this battle wouldn't be without its consequences. Using his unpredictable moon breathing, Kokushibo would land some devastating attacks, stabbing Sanemi, cutting off some of Gyome's fingers, and slashing through Yorichiro's stomach, which would give Moichiro flashbacks of his own death in the original timeline. But Yorichiro would survive this, and after Genya takes a bite of Kokushibo's flesh, everyone would launch one final attack on the demon, turning their weapons red and finally killing him. At the same time, Yorichiro would take control of Nakime, crushing the Infinity Castle. Outside, everyone would quickly reunite, and the final battle would start with a fierce standoff. This time, most of the Slayers would be in a much better shape than they were in the original timeline. They would also have Rengoku, Tenjin, and Yorichiro on their side. The only downside is that since the Infinity Castle battles finished much more quickly, the Slayers would have to survive longer until dawn, meaning they'd need to be strategic about how they stall Muzan. So, all of the Hashira would attack the Demon King together in order to confuse him and not give him any time to counterattack. Those who managed to turn their swords red would focus on slashing Muzan, while the others would act as bait to keep his attention. Since Shinobu is also alive this time, she would try using her strongest poisons to weaken Muzan even further. They would work briefly, but Muzan's body is far stronger than that of any other demon, so these new poisons would have little effect. Anyway, even though Muzan would definitely fight back and would wound multiple Hashira, in the end, there really isn't much he can do. As the sun begins to rise, Tanjiro would jump toward him to deliver the final blow with the 13th form of sun breathing. As Muzan starts disintegrating, the other Hashira would jump in to take Tanjiro away, knowing that Muzan would try to turn the boy into the new Demon King. With Tanjiro out of harm's way, Sonami, Giyu, and Gyomei would stay near Muzan to battle his giant baby form. Soon enough, the sun would fully rise, and despite his attempts to escape, Muzan's body would completely disintegrate, bringing an end to the era of demons. And yeah, in case you're wondering, this means that every Hashira would survive the encounter and get to live out their lives peacefully as normal humans. Click on this video next where I explained all 18 final forms in Demon Slayer. Go on, click it.